the biggest gift any of us can have. And for a lot of us who are here feeling a little bit alien or black sheep, we know what it's like to crunch and adapt. Mm-hmm. So we want to give them the space and the support and the safety to be who they are. I mean, that's a huge challenge on a planet that is telling us who we're supposed to be.
Yep.
So yes, this is the hardest job we will ever have. It's the most alive, the most meaningful job we will ever have. But there's so much at stake because our mind is involved, our heart is involved so fully, and our body's involved. And there's the mystery of life, which we can easily forget when we're tired and hungry and all of these things, and we're worried.
Hi, Conscious Parents. It's Carrie here, and I am here with a little info about raising our mindful kids. I've got some tips and tricks about breaking free of the box and becoming who you are and teaching your kids how to do that along the way. Join us. Hi there and welcome back. It's Carrie, your friendly intuitive mama here, and I have a wonderful guest. We're actually just down the street from each other, so it's really fun to connect. I have Diana Zaheer here today, and I would love to tell you guys, so for more than 30 years, she has been teaching people all over the world about the inner journey, which is so amazing. She uses the phrase inner harbor to describe the sacred space inside all of us. And I'm so excited to have Diana here and connect. It sounds like she has been on a similar parenting journey to me as well. Thank you, Diana, for being here today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
So, Diana, I was chatting with you before we started, and you had mentioned that you lived with your children all over the world. Mm-hmm. This really resonates with me. I feel like I'm a product of the world. I was raised in Southern California, but love living in Colorado now. Mm-hmm. What do you feel like after going all over the world and parenting in different parts of the world you had mentioned? Yeah. Do you feel like there's anything that you could provide for us from a worldly view for parents? It's kind of an offhand question, but I just feel driven toward this amazing experience.
No, it's a great question. I think a world education is a really important part of raising our children. So they're exposed to different cultures, different ways of life, how we're all the same, how there are different challenges. I think that was a huge part of what shaped my children into the great young men that they are. So I'm really grateful. And we did a lot of homeschooling. Mm-hmm. So we were on mountaintops in Nepal, and we were in deserts in Dubai, and in big cities in India. So it was great. We could keep going and doing the educational choices that they had at the time, but they could also study the way they wanted to study. So wherever we were, we could take our learning with us.
Wow. Okay, so if you could go back and tell a younger version of yourself any advice about parenting and raising these gifted, spirited, highly sensitive kiddos coming in right now, either tell yourself or to tell parents who are raising kids right now, what would you say?
I would say you're amazing to be a parent of these children. And some of my friends used to say, you end up with the children you're supposed to have. We don't always trust that, but I do. And that we're all going to learn so much along the way. They're going to learn so much about being in the world, having a body, learning what it's like to be here on this planet. But as a parent, we're all going to learn a lot too. And I think that's the part we don't always have the time or energy to remember, but we need to take care of ourselves. We need to appreciate ourselves. We need to nurture ourselves as parents because it's such a huge job.
Yes. I think the appreciating piece really resonates with me. Just a little background for myself. The year of 2024 has been a lot of growth and spiritual awakening for myself as a parent, recognizing some of the challenges that my husband and I go through with raising our very, very spirited kiddos. Did you go through any of this spiritual awakening in your parenting journey? Was there any point where you we're using some of the challenges to help you grow and connect deeper?
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is actually a daily process where we wake up and we see what's here today, what's here in me, what's here in this child, what's here in that child, whether it's something to do with the emotions or the learning needs or the physical needs, what's happening with them spiritually. This is probably the richest territory outside of a primary relationship that we're ever going to have, because we're watching people arrive in such a pure state, and then they're going through their developmental phases. We can always go as deep as we want as parents. Some days it's just going to be, let's feed everybody and, get some exercise and go to bed. But other days, there's so much depth here as an adult who is guiding this child, where if they're in a very young child phase or a middle child phase, energetically speaking and spiritually speaking, it's almost as if we get illuminated as adults. Whatever unfinished business we have from that phase of our own development, that can even get activated. So there's so much here as a guide, as a steward for these little people. They're learning, but we're also being invited to learn.
As we continue to look at the pieces of ourselves that may be activated, maybe from inner childhood, maybe from current pieces, what are things that we can do at home as busy parents?
Great question. Well, just on a practical level, as much as possible, to make sure we feed and water and move and sleep ourselves, because that can take the back seat, of course. We want to make sure these little people get their basic needs met, but it's important we do too. And then anything else we can throw into the mix that helps us feel alive, that helps us feel honored. If we like to be in nature, if we like music, if we like to meditate, if we like to be alone, if we like to be with people, to be curious about how do we get our internal needs met.
Okay. And also, as things come up for them, I went to a family constellation session yesterday for my husband and I. It was really neat and really special. We've done it before, but this is the first time we've done it as parents. So the lady had mentioned that our kids being born today are coming so vibrantly and so intensely and passionately on their own versions of missions. They have their own things in alignment for themselves, and there's only so much we can really do as parents. There's so much that they already know when they come in. So I was talking to my husband, and it's almost shifting this mindset into being a facilitator versus like protecting. What would you say to this idea?
Yeah, I think it's so much fun you did that. That's a powerful kind of inner work. Yes. Yeah. I think it's natural as humans that we have a protective instinct toward our children. I think we need to appreciate that. Even if it's overkill, it's normal, it's natural, especially watching them grow and feeling connected to those younger times they won't even remember. So the protective instinct is normal and healthy and natural. But I do think that I would agree with what this person is saying. The children coming to the planet really do have their own mission. This is a difficult planet. It's a wonderful planet, but we need that vitality. We need the creativity. We need their gifts that they're bringing. So we can look at our job. What is our job? And we can look at it each day, as we were saying, or we can look at it more thematically, that we're trying to give them this home base, this safe harbor, this secure nest where they can grow and develop and be able to take those gifts into the world. But it is part of the growing up process to recognize their gifts and to slowly let go. There's a teaching, this is a hard one, but there's a teaching that basically says the ultimate job of a parent is to become irrelevant. And that doesn't mean we're going to disappear or not be there. But as they get older and as they find their wings, we're there, but we're also honoring what they're here to do and how they want to do it.
If I'm trying to hold on to them, I'm trying to figure out if there's something that I need to work on in myself with security. My grandmother used to always say, they're children of the world. They come through us, but they do not belong to us. And it is really hard to think about that letting go one day. It's hard to think about that journey.
Well, I don't think you have to go there yet.
Okay.
I don't think you have to preempt that. When it's time for these different moments of releasing to happen, they'll feel natural. They may be at an age right now that the protective instinct comes up in a strong way. So we can see how, again, that makes sense. But what you're also showing us with your question is that as parents, we can also look at some parenting of ourselves. And if I have a big reaction, if I have a big feeling, whether it's fear or anger or sadness or judgment, those are things I can look inside and care for as part of my work as a parent. So there's work I'm doing with my children, and there's work I can do with myself, with my younger parts that might want some attention.
Yeah. What about, so I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son. And I was thinking about my 9-year-old son has always been asking to be an adult. What would you say about this piece? Is there healing that he has to let to let go and be a child?
Okay, that's a great question. Yeah. But I wonder, before I answer that, if you can put your hand on your heart for a second and take a breath, because that's a hard one as a mom.
Right.
Yeah? It's always so good to have our hand nearby, just to feel it on our chest and breathe. If we have a moment where we feel stretched as a parent, it's like, okay, it's all good. I'm here with me, right?
Yep.
So I think what he's expressing is something that we do hear a lot. I think it's part of growing up on the planet now. Things are going a lot faster. So when I was growing up, 9 years old looked very different than it does today. So 9-year-olds do feel more grown up. And I do think there's some orientations of children who are ready to do their thing, and they actually resent being in a child's body. They want adults to take them seriously. They don't want to be treated like children. So this has more to do, I think, with how souls can show up on the planet. There may be moments of enjoying a childlike spirit or a childlike nature, but I actually think it's logical and it's appropriate for the ways certain souls show up on the planet. So I actually wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
It makes sense to me. I have one of those at my house. So they're going to find their way. They're going to find their joy and their delight, but it might be less common, the things that they enjoy and feel delighted by.
It's true. It's like a little 40-year-old walking around in a 9-year-old's body with his little hobbies. But
But I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think he's
him.
showing you this is what it's like to be me. So can you join me?
Yep.
And just see that's who I am.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think along with the lines of communicating with a kiddo that's going through this type of thing, what would you say looks like good communication between parents and kids? What does communication look like for you?
In that particular situation or in general?
I think in general with conscious parenting and raising mindful kids.
Yeah, great question. Well, a lot of it does depend on the particular child and what's happening in that moment and what helps soothe them or calm them or helps them come into the present moment. And different children need different kinds of interactions. Some children are very responsive to physical touch. And so if they're having a hard time, a hug goes a really long way for them. Other children, especially children who show up in kind of an older presentation, they often have a need to understand. And so they want to have language. They want to have clarification. They want to have some kind of inquiry about a situation. A hug won't do it. And sometimes they're physically not the kind of person who wants to be touched a lot. So I think that's part of learning to communicate as a parent, is to see, what does this particular child need to really feel heard and seen and connected with?
Yep. What do you think? So my two kids are definitely highly sensitive. They feel other kids' energies. They sometimes take on other children's energies without realizing it. My son will come home and say, "Mom, I helped so-and-so when they were having a fit. I calmed them down. I could feel I was absorbing some of their energy." I'm like, oh, okay, there's some skills we might need to work on here for protection. Do you have any insight or ideas or tips for parents raising empathic kids that are connected like this?
Yeah. And I think more and more of those kids are coming to the planet. So it's a really pertinent question, because there's so much that wants to shift here. It might take some time.
Yeah.
I think safety is really important, and grounding is really important. And what we were saying about feeling the holding field of home. If they know when they come home from school and they can tell mom about how they helped another child, that will be something that's interesting to talk about. They'll be listening. There'll be appreciation of that. And that also home is a place that they don't have to do that. That they can have their time to reboot, to renew, to ground, and different children ground in different ways. But just creating this environment where who you are is very understood and appreciated and not judged. And now you can go and take care of yourself, and I've got you.
Yeah. I love that. I think so many parents, we don't give our children the space to do that. We may not always follow their lead, and when they're telling us, maybe their body is telling us if they're overworked, maybe in too many activities. Maybe school can be a lot and they need to have a different type of schooling situation. So I think going back to the communicating piece and just being open to receiving what our children have to say. Yeah. So there can be a lot of pressure on parents. I'm sure it was the same when you were parenting. It's just a different era, that pressure that we feel to have them in soccer when they're 5 years old, to have them learning the piano when they're 6, or if you don't start it early, they're not going to get it and they're not going to be the best. What would you say to parents going through all of this?
Yeah. It's very hard because that pressure's real, right? We might feel pressure in the community, from the school, from our families, from our culture. And to understand this is well-meaning. And we may have grown up that way. So we're hearing a lot of preferences from the environment, communication from the environment about how we should parent. And I think if we can hold that as the well-intentioned advice that it is, we don't get as hooked by it. It's not as sticky. We don't have to get into that conversation so much. We can see it, we can appreciate it, we can know it for what it is. And then again, we can turn toward ourselves as the one listening. We can be with these little people, as individual as they are. And, that's where there's that appreciation for being a parent and the strength that's inside of us, the courage that's inside of us to be a different kind of parent. And it's wonderful to have podcasts like yours that people can listen to and say, oh, yes, it's okay that I'm listening to my kids. And there are other parents out there doing the same thing. But it does take a lot of courage. We are practicing being ourselves. We're raising our children in a way that feels right in our gut, feels right in our hearts. Our mind feels really clear. But it takes practice and it takes courage. And so again, to appreciate, wow, I really took a lot of space there in that conversation, or took up a lot of space in not enrolling my kids in a bunch of activities. The activities aren't bad, but it's the question of attunement to this child. What serves this child the most right now? If I drop into the present moment with this child, what do I sense is needed here?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I'm commonly asked by parents, how do I tune in? How do I hear my gut? What does that look like?
Very good.
What would you respond to that one?
Yeah. So this is what we were saying about taking care of our basic needs as a parent. It's hard to hear ourselves if we're hungry or thirsty or tired or neglected in our relationship with ourselves. Then we're probably hearing more of the external advice, right? But I also think our relationship to our own critical voice, right? That inner critic, that part of the mind that is full of the shoulds or the comparisons. I think that's the other opportunity for us as parents, is to learn about the critical voice in our own mind. Because every human has it, keeps getting passed down from generation to generation. But it's a really important part of getting our freedom and our kindness to ourselves as parents, is to start to recognize, wow, I'm telling myself all this stuff I should be doing. What if that's just the first layer? And what if the acknowledgement of that is helping me to be curious about, well, what else is true? Or how do I know this is true? We tend to land in our knowing, right? In that clear sense of what's right when we're less stressed, when there's less tension in our bodies. So that's why having our hand on our heart is really good, because we can feel that kind of friendly reassurance. And it doesn't mean we have to go do a bunch of yoga or something, but just checking in with our bodies, like, is my jaw tight right now? Can I feel myself sitting in the chair right now? Can I feel my feet in my shoes right now? So going into the body, having a little visit with your inner experience doesn't take very long. There are lots of opportunities to practice that in groups or online teachings, but more moments with ourselves will help us feel confident about knowing, oh, there's a yes, or there's a sense of knowing.
Does it get easier to get to that place? Does it get easier to stay in that place over time? I feel like I'm chatting with Diana here, and she looks so zen. I bet she's so zen most of the time. I can't picture her getting into the worked up feelings that I feel as a highly sensitive mama.
Right. Well, it takes practice. I've been doing this a really, really long time, right? But that's where I think having mentors, having elders is really helpful.
Yeah.
You know, offering groups. Maybe you want to create a group for parents to practice that. I can come visit. You know, we have things to transmit to each other. And this is a part of what's potential for parents, is to have community support. It needs to make sense, because we probably don't have a lot of extra time. But how could we nurture ourselves that way? How could we bring in the experience of people who have been there, who've been growing those internal muscles? So it doesn't have to take a lot of time, and it is cumulative, but we have to decide it's important to us.
Okay. And I may have a place for us. We will have to chat about that later.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good.
I wanted to ask you, as far as we had mentioned these kids coming in with gifts, what would be your follow-up as we're chatting about that? What are your feelings about that? I feel like even like when I was born in the 80s, I feel like my husband and I came with gifts ourselves.
Sure.
We were very highly sensitive. We were both gifted and talented kids, or over-educated for both of us, way too many degrees, and passion for learning. And I feel like it's louder with this next era of kids, my two kids.
Most
What
definitely.
are your thoughts on this?
I totally agree with that. I think there have been the stragglers here, right? Definitely can relate to that. And I think a lot of us grew up feeling like the black sheep of the family because we felt different or felt more alien and sensitive and all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, different teachings and different teachers have commentaries about why this is happening, why there's an influx. But I would totally agree that the generation of millennials and Gen Z, and there's a much bigger population of people coming in to be here with these gifts. I think it's a part of the bigger plan, however we believe that or understand that. But I think we're moving toward some ultimate wholeness, and we need more sensitive people on a mission to help that happen.
Yeah, definitely. I have this feeling in me that these kids that are being born with these gifts, trying to help parents to see these pieces as gifts, because sometimes it can feel the opposite when you're raising these kiddos. And these kids are so sensitive to the world that it can be easy to squelch the compassion pieces in them, the mindful pieces, the conscious pieces that these kids are coming in with. Would you have any tips or ideas on how we can help our kids to stay conscious into adulthood?
I think they're going to. I think their souls are very resilient. I think they're here with a focus that's quite formidable. But I think as parents of these children, we're being given the chance to look at how our beliefs are being highlighted or how our childhood happened. So there's a healing process for us if we want to look. I'm really protective of parents to not feel that they need to be hard on themselves or judge themselves, that they're not doing it right, that this is an unusual kind of child. This is messy. It's wonderful and it's messy. And every day's a new day. You just got to start over again and see what's here today. But if we were to break it down to kind of the lowest common denominator job from the time they arrive in these little bodies and, you know, how we're with them into adulthood, we're just helping them learn to be here. What they're going to do here, how they're going to do it, we don't have to get into that. If they want to learn something, we can facilitate that or find them the mentoring. But we're these kind of on-the-ground people. I have wonderful students who are new parents. They're such wonderful parents. And I always remind them, you know, your job is just to help them get used to being in a body. It's that simple. Help them arrive, help them land. And every age is going to have those challenges. Like you're talking about the empathy with other kids at school. Help them be okay with that. Help them stay in their bodies and understand what that is a little bit more. Yeah.
I loved that. It was beautiful. I put my hand on my heart and had some big energy coming out. I hope our listeners do as well. I wanted to ask you, and we may have already answered this, but why does parenting feel like such a challenging journey?
Yeah, great question. Well, we love these people more than anyone else we've ever loved. Right? I always tell new parents, you love your partner so much. You can't imagine loving anybody more than that. And then this little child shows up in your life and you can't believe how much you love them. It just blows you to smithereens. That's why the protective instinct is so big, because we love them so much and we want all good for them. And we want them, of course, to be able to be themselves. It's the biggest gift any of us can have. And for a lot of us who are here feeling a little bit alien or black sheep, we know what it's like to crunch and adapt. So we want to give them the space and the support and the safety to be who they are. I mean, that's a huge challenge on a planet that is telling us who we're supposed to be.
Yep.
So yes, this is the hardest job we will ever have. It's the most alive, the most meaningful job we will ever have. But there's so much at stake because our mind is involved, our heart is involved so fully, and our body's involved. And there's the mystery of life, which we can easily forget when we're tired and hungry and all of these things and we're worried. But there's so much going on here we don't understand. Where in the world did this person come from?
Yep.
How did you arrive in my life? How did you get in that little body? Science can tell us things, but the spiritual reality of this, the energetic reality of this, again, can blow our minds to smithereens. So we're really in a lot of different dimensions when we parent. It's not just get your books and get in the car so you can get to school on time. That's part of it. But we're also talking about the mystery of the universe. And when we look at that little person and we really see them clearly, incredible. Whatever age they are.
Yep. And we are asked those tough questions every day as well. The mystery of the universe questions. My 6-year-old, she loves to ask, why are we here? Where did we come from? Where are we going? All of the deep questions. It's very sweet.
What happens for you when she asks those questions?
I think for me, I just feel overwhelmed because I'm like, well, I'm 41 and I don't know how to answer that for myself right now. I think I asked the same question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, to appreciate that moment as a parent, there's so much going on for us when this bright light of a little person asks us that question. And we'll do our best. We'll feel a response come up. But it's also possible just to hang out with them in that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, look at this incredible thing we're doing together. Isn't it amazing? I can't wait to hear what you discover about that.
I love that.
So we're still the adult, but we can kind of hang out in the present moment together. The mystery, another way of talking about the mystery is to call it not knowing. We don't have to know everything.
Yeah.
We can have a little moment with them. We don't want to overwhelm them or put too much pressure on them to be the adult, but we can invite them into, yes, that's the mystery, and I'm here with you. We're on a planet that has mystery, and it also has the security of our home and dinner and your bedroom, but there's also mystery here, which it sounds like she's already aware of, and she's so curious about it.
Yep. The reflective pieces of that sound spot on for where we would like to go with it. Yes, I love that. That's beautiful. I'm feeling drawn to ask you if you have an idea of an affirmation or a mantra that I might be able to put on my bathroom mirror or write in my cell phone that moms and dads could use or say in a day.
So many. Yeah, we could write a whole book of them, huh?
We could. That's another journey.
Well, I think we need something that brings about kindness. Something about I'm doing a great job today. I'm the guardian or the facilitator of this incredible being.
Yeah.
We're learning together. I don't have to be perfect. I'm showing up here with my whole heart.
Yep.
Right? Things that invite us into today. Today's a new day for us.
It's an important focus. Each day is a new day. And starting out each day. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're all going to get a chance to learn something. All of us.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Diana, for being here today with us.
Of course. My pleasure.
We'll include your information in the show notes. And I was on your site and I saw some of the wonderful things that you have available with the recordings. That's so neat.
Yes.
Wow.
I really want to give all kinds of resources for people to get to know themselves, to learn to be kind to themselves. So we have some music, we have some writing, we have some animated videos on YouTube, working on a book. So yes, however you can receive support, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, feeling not alone in parenting journeys is very important.
It's very important.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in, Changemakers. This is Carrie. And if you haven't done a review for us, 5 stars and a little few words about what you've enjoyed in our podcast episodes, we would really appreciate it. If you guys would like to ever message me, I would love any questions you have or any feedback at info@hearttoheartlife.com. We also have a brand new website, which we're super excited to share. It's hearttoheartlife.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and happy life, happy times, Changemaker families. Please remember that the information shared on this podcast is educational in nature and does not constitute licensed mental health advice. If you need such advice, you should speak with a licensed professional about your unique situation. Thanks so much, happy listeners.